Hello.
Hello. Welcome back, guys.
We are so excited for this episode today. My name is Nicodemus.
And I'm Francesca, and we are
the Saucy Sibz. Hello, hello. So today we have a really, really exciting episode with our friend Blaike Ford, who we'll talk more about in a minute. But the first thing that we want to talk about is our sponsor today, and that is Macy's Wine Store.
So yes, that Macy's. I know what you're thinking. You know the Saucy Sibz on this podcast. We are always drinking something. We sometimes are getting a little sauced, and you know that we're wine snobs. And so for our first big sponsorship, we are helping launch Macy's new wine store.
I know. Wait, Macy's does wine? They absolutely do wine. And it was actually so funny because we showed up to Blaike's house and we said, hey, Blaike, we're going to bring the wine. And we actually showed up with a case of 6 bottles, which might have been a lot.
And we start unboxing, explaining to her what Macy's Wine Shop is. So you get to curate a box of 6 wines. And you can do 3 red blends. You can do an international reds. And of course, we went 3 American red blends. And then we did 3 international. So we got Spain, Italy, and Argentina. And actually, the most exciting part about this launch is that by using the code and the link in our show notes, you can get $50 off your first box of 6. So it's a $95 value. And these are award-winning, amazingly curated wines from Macy's Master Wine Somms. And honestly, they're killing it.
They really are. And obviously they would. We all know Macy's. Macy's is trusted. Macy's is great. You can't really go wrong with them. Like, you know what you're getting.
Actually, what's so funny is when we got this sponsorship, my grandparents already knew about it. They were like, oh, we knew as soon as that launched because they've been fans of Macy's our whole lives. And they were like, we've known about that. They're like, that's literally the best wine you can get for this price. And we're giving you guys $50 off your first case. Please help us launch this. Please give us your feedback. And on the YouTube version of the show, we're going to do a little taste test talking about it a little bit more. So cheers, guys. I hope you enjoy this episode. It is also one of our biggest guests we've ever had. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys. See you later. Okay, well, hi.
Cheers.
Hello.
We are live.
We are live.
Welcome.
Where are we?
In my home.
And yeah, we are in Blaike Ford's home. And yeah, we've been trying to do this podcast for a while now. And we're so excited that it's actually happening. And
we made it happen.
Yeah.
And you just flew in from Nashville.
That's correct.
We came in from LA.
Yep.
And all of us are so tired. And we were like,
never heard of her.
Yeah, I don't know her.
Nope.
Who is she?
Not a pal.
She needs to be my best friend.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get
Interested in
acquainted. Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like, I slept in today and I was like trying to get some like work done. And so I was like, I'm going to wake up at 9. But then 9 came and I was like, oh, I'm going to sleep in. But then because I was like, oh, I could use the sleep,
What's your like normal wake up and what's your normal sleep in? Because that's very different for everyone.
I wake up at 9 is like when I'm being productive and busy.
Okay.
10:30 is like when I'm ready to go.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
I know. Nick,
It's- I'm kind of
7 is when I'm
Yeah.
waking up and happy about it.
Same.
If I need, I pretty much try not to wake up earlier than that actually, but I feel good at that.
Yeah.
When I wake up at 9, Nick knows I have this like, weird trait where if it's like 10:30 or noon, I think the day is done and I start to get upset.
Same. I'm mad at myself.
Yeah, I'm like, Nick, the day's over.
Oh.
And he's like, it's fucking noon. You're gonna be okay. Like,
No,
you still have time.
I turn into a gremlin. I'm like, I have wasted half of the day. I know.
You two would annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's what I was asking. Everyone has a different
Yeah.
mindset of where that stands.
He hates that about me.
Yeah,
But like, because he likes to do more things at night, my productivity turns off around 4 or 5 p.m. But then I know, well,
6.
but see, like, that's, they say like, but see, the sun's still up.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
completely
yeah.
off when the sun goes down. And some people like they're really productive at night and they're like, oh, like I could just get a bunch of my work done later, like 8 p.m.,
Yeah.
9 p.m. I'm like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
I like to work during the day and chill at night.
This is where I become an anomaly because I'm
Okay.
like, they're like, are you a morning person or a night person? I'm like, well, I go to bed I get up at 7 and go to bed around 1, and that just is my vibe.
Okay.
And like I do both. So
Wait,
then
do you
they're like,
sleep
so
with-
sleep, not in the cards. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I've heard that's called the sleepless elite. No, I'm serious. There's a term for it.
Wait,
It's a
really?
psychological term, yeah, where some people thrive on 6 hours of sleep.
Mhm.
And that's it. And their productivity doesn't really change. I was editing a podcast till 11 at night yesterday, drinking
Yeah.
chamomile tea. Like, yeah. You know what
And
I
I
mean?
would not.
I
No,
didn't
you would
used
never.
to be that way though.
Yeah.
Like my mom would have to shake me out of bed at like 2 p.m. in high school.
Mm.
Like, hello?
Hello.
Do you
Yeah.
exist?
I never slept in. Sleeping in is not
Yeah.
for me. It's probably the least favorite quality. Actually, I'm sure there's other least favorite ones of like
Who's asking?
of every like ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And it's because like even if we go out until 4 o'clock in the morning, like I'm up at 7.
Right.
Same.
It's even when I don't want to be. It's like
Nope.
let's say like you've had a night and I could maybe take a nap like later if it's a real hungover day, but it's 7 a.m. I'm up. I've got to I get hungry right when I wake up,
Same.
which is not a lot of other people.
No, I
But
used to like pass out in the shower if I didn't eat breakfast before.
Yeah. I love eating breakfast.
Same.
I didn't for a while. I was like a noon.
You're also not a breakfast.
Well, I don't
Is
think
it?
I have meal times. I don't. I just kind of like eat when I want to. But I could be completely rested, having done nothing the night before, and I could sleep till 5 p.m.
Yeah, no.
5 hard.
Mike's up, bitches.
Mike's up.
So we got away from ourselves.
We did. We always do this.
Yeah. We just like start and we get so excited.
Usually it's my fault, but I feel strongly that it's a collective fault.
Yeah.
It is. Your eyes are piercing right now. I tell you that every time I see you.
I also
Well,
thought
like,
that.
Nick is blue-eyed. Maybe it's just because I see your eyes all the time. Sometimes you wear certain stuff, but like Blake's eyes, you're one of those blue eyes that it's like a dark turquoise,
It's
but they're
mysterious.
bright.
It's
yeah.
Aquamarine.
Because I'm a
Yes.
fish.
Because I'm a fish.
No, but they're so piercing. It's
Yeah, but I feel like Nick's are too. Are ours different? I don't know my own color.
they
of my
are.
eyes.
His
They
are
ours.
they are
They ours.
It's the
Arr.
collective form of ours.
We're pirates now here.
That are ours, and I'm like,
They're-
they ours.
they ours. I mean,
Sorry, we hate laughing. This is hard.
Yeah. One time, actually, this was like the worst. We had to cut it out. So I have like something wrong with me to where
Loaded
yeah.
commentary.
if death comes up,
yeah.
I can't stop laughing.
Oh yeah, I get that.
No, it's bad. To the point where it's like a nervous reaction in my body and I can't help it. Like people have like told me like in person that like someone died and I have to excuse myself
No.
because I immediately lose it. And it's
Yeah.
insensitive. It's absolutely not okay. And we talked about something on the podcast and I couldn't stop. I was crying. I was laughing so
You're like, this
hard.
must go.
Yeah.
I have it. It's the funniest, most insensitive, worst, most horrible thing I've ever put. Like I've seen on that.
Yeah.
I've seen that we've done on camera, and I was like, I rewatched it, and I had to fast forward. I was like,
You're
I
like, I
know
cannot-
that's
I
cutting.
can't-
I'm not even.
Yeah. You're like, I both can't unsee this and I also
Yeah.
cannot see this anymore again, ever.
Whew, yeah, that was like. And I just text you, I think, and I was like, never again. Are we going to talk about death on the
Real
podcast?
that yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's just
yeah, because we had we're not going to get into it, but it was a crazy, weird story, and it was like, that's going to go in the vault somewhere, but I'm going to hold on to
Your
that
vaults
footage.
must
But
be loaded.
yeah,
we have a forbidden podcast that we had to take down.
Right.
yeah,
And
that's my favorite one.
and then
We should do a private screening for that one.
You should.
just
That'd be
in
fun.
person,
Yeah.
no phones allowed.
Yeah. Just like enjoy it or get out of here. That's
Yeah.
it. Like,
Sell tickets. Oh
Yeah.
man,
I'd buy.
Someone was like, "You
hilarious.
should start a Patreon." Is that how you pronounce it?
Patreon, yeah.
A Patreon account of just all your like forbidden or deleted scenes because they're like when
not the
we
worst
tell
idea.
people. Well, there's also
People love raw, funny shit. Why do you think people like Jackass and shit?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. And I think our best stories, that the crazy shit that happens to us in person to our friends, every time they're like, that's what you need to tell on a podcast. And I'm like, I have a grandmother.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
care about
But don't you also, on that note, aside from the grandmother who we all love, we love grandmothers, don't you wish sometimes that you always had some sort of like videographer or audio guy just following you around in life? Is that just
all
me?
the time?
No, all the time. No, we talk
I
about
don't
how like
think that's
this
a
is what we
normal
need,
feeling.
you know?
I know.
But yes.
But it's only because people are always like, God, wouldn't that be dope if you had that recorded? I'm like, yeah, I would. But that's just my normal life and no one's following me. So.
I was upset when I went to jail the other day that there wasn't footage.
What?
That's on a podcast. It was a big misunderstanding, but in the middle of the day.
Drops the jail bomb. Okay.
I feel like this could be like an OnlyFans, but it's not sexual
Well,
content.
I was going to take it there and then I was like, is that wrong? And then I was like, no, I think it's right, but I'm not sure. So I'm glad you said
Subscribe to our OnlyFans. We're taking for Jessica.
Coming in hot.
No, but if it's like on OnlyFans.
No, that's what I'm talking
Right.
about.
Like actually.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's all about like Francesca laughing about my dead friend.
What have you done? We just said we can't insert this ever again.
Okay, I didn't even. All right, let's just take a two deep breaths. 2 deep breaths. Okay. See, this is all right.
We are a dangerous trio.
I know.
Truly. Okay. Speaking of
Collecting.
being a dangerous trio.
Yes.
We met Blaike. I met Blaike at RMU, one of our favorite little Breckenridge spots.
Oh yeah.
And I had just been saying to someone, I was like, I'm stuck in this town. Not stuck because I'm obsessed with this town, but just that I missed a lot of my friends who had like worked corporate or understood that. I just like missed all my New York friends.
That
Yeah.
zest.
And and just like people who were like, I would say the shakers and movers.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that people are not doing things here, but it's just very localized. So if you're doing something locally based, awesome. But as far as, you know, New York and LA, certain energy. And we were at RMU, and then did one of us just overhear someone talking about New York, or did we just?
I think we like inserted each other into each other's lives because that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Overly friendly.
Yeah.
But to a good way. Like I make the most friends, and sometimes Nick's even like Francesca, like everywhere you go, you're chatting with someone or making friends, or it's like incapable of not making friends. I would say it's like a superpower.
My
Same
New
as
York
yours.
friends, when I left, they were like, hi. How did you make 65 new friends in Breckenridge, Colorado? And I was like, do you know me? And they're
Do you
like, why did
know
we even
me?
ask? And I was like, cool, we're done here. Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Glad
So
you
yes,
got it.
Yes. Same.
So we just started chatting, and then she was like, oh, I lived in New York for years and I'm working remote. And I was like, I lived in New York for years and I'm here. And I was like, can we be friends?
But you also were like, I don't know, I like was living on a boat in Croatia. And I was like, cool, my dream that you just
Cool,
did.
my
That's
dream.
nice.
We can make that dream happen for you.
Careful. I would.
If we get, this is kind of a silly dream of mine, like, so we could still work remote. We're on
Yeah.
the boat.
Okay.
We don't have to quit our jobs, because that's one thing, like quitting my job completely and taking off again. It's hard to get back into.
Maybe that's why we bonded, because I did the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there were multiple bond moments, but that was definitely
Because that
of
was
them.
one thing I had done. And then it's sometimes very hard to get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into kind of like real life, as you would say. And you're like, you have to interview and find someone. And it's like, what I have going on right now, I don't feel the need to take off because it gives me the flexibility in my life. But
For sure.
if we could have like cameras on a boat, make it a reality show,
Oh.
but we're not filming all the time, so we could still do our jobs.
So like I was just saying, why aren't cameras following me
Following
around
us
all
around.
the times? That would
No,
be that.
exactly. Because
Wait,
my-
I love this idea.
Same.
Mhm. So it's like, hey, like a few friends are working remote. We have the podcast. You have your things. We're also starting a couple businesses, but LOL, we're doing it from the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Cool.
renting
Is there
a
a dotted
yacht-
line somewhere that I have to sign?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And renting a yacht is, if you have, let's say, like a group of us friends doing it, it wouldn't be more than our rents now, because we
Well,
live in a
that's-
vacation
That's
town.
why you don't live in multiple cities like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we did it for 3 months.
Yeah. No, I love this.
Mm-hmm. So just throwing it out there.
I feel like we should.
You
like
can
this
pitch show ideas to people. That's
Absolutely.
like a thing you can do.
or just like hire it on ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the filming because, like, as
Right.
you've seen, like, I kind of know what I'm doing, but I really don't.
Yeah, but
No,
there's
you
only one way to
need-
learn.
Exactly.
People on there, or you could just fasten the boat with enough cameras,
Right.
but then it's the team that takes all of like the good.
Right. I'm just gonna duct tape GoPros in every single.
I think that's kind of,
Yes.
they do that. I mean, they have like cameras everywhere
Yeah,
on like
yeah.
below deck
Mm.
and stuff like that.
It's funny because like most celebrities are like, please kindly fuck off, paparazzi. And we're like, please kindly film me.
Yeah. Watch me on a
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah. I swear I'm interesting.
You know how we met?
Oh, you guys met differently?
Yeah, you were not.
Okay,
with
yeah.
us.
No,
Mm-hmm.
you guys met at RMU.
Right.
You two had run into each other at a bar in Aspen, but we just kind of like chit chatted real quick. Oh my God. Like, yeah, we met in Breckenridge. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. That was it. But how we actually met, it was,
I'm scared.
no, we had a giant,
Still scared.
strawberry margarita at the W in Aspen at the pool.
Oh my God.
I wasn't there that day.
You weren't there.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
And it was like me and Chris ran
Yes.
into you and Erica.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, like the W is a rooftop pool on top of a hotel in Aspen, nestled against the mountains.
What more Aspen thing could
I know.
you have?
I know.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like it's
insane.
the place to be. It's like the see and be seen of like beautiful days in Aspen, which is all summer in Aspen.
All summer in Aspen, yeah. But no, I mean, it literally is like an elevated pool, like in the mountains. Like think of a ski lift, but like it's a pool with a bar.
Correct.
It's so cool.
Yes.
and
But-
giant margaritas.
Yeah.
Giant margaritas. And then the guy I was with knew the bartender. So he was
That's
just like,
right.
keep filling this up. Because I was like,
Yes.
how much are, 100 ounce strawberry
That could be
margaritas,
$400 in Aspen.
Well, I went to one bar in
Easy.
Aspen and there was a margarita on the menu for $84.
No, it was 88.
Is it
I
88?
think I just like have it seared into my head from your
Either
story.
way, I was like, this must be for a pitcher. And they were like, no, ma'am, it's just for a glass. And I was like, I'm upset. But continue.
No, but that's what it was. So this guy, he just keeps ordering these like giant, 100-ounce margaritas.
Yes.
And I'm just like, bro, I can't really, I don't know how much these are,
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
I've seen people in Aspen for a happy hour rack up because an $88 margarita, not crazy in Aspen when I worked at the Jerome. Because if you do so I had this whole group, they were all ordering skinny, spicy margs, but
Naturally.
Clase Azul Anejo,
Okay.
which is like $75 a shot.
Yeah.
So then upcharge the margarita, so $80 something. But to put it on the menu is like a whole other an Aspen
Yeah.
situation. So it's totally normal. But they all had like 3 margs. There was 5 of them in their group. Their bill for happy hour before dinner was like it was like $1,800. And they were like, yeah.
Same, totally.
here you go.
And I was
Yeah.
like, so that's the thing is you can accidentally, it's
Yeah.
not somewhere where you say another round
Yeah.
on me.
No.
It's unless you have that FU money,
Yeah.
you can't just say that in Aspen.
I know.
Which we're manifesting.
Yes.
Man, no, that's exactly how
That
we
happened to
live our
you
life.
with Vot. Vot said to a bartender, bring me your favorite red by the glass.
Yeah.
Other
And-
places
Hefty.
in the world, it's going to be the most expensive, maybe 25. Aspen,
It
by
could
the
be-
glass.
It could be 150,
Mhm.
So
On the low end.
on the low end, yeah. So that's why he just said like, oh, whatever, and I was just kind of like, sure.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
not going to say no,
Yeah.
but we're going to.
and then there's a saying, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. So,
Yes.
mm.
That's me in Aspen.
So that for the people watching, that's just a saying for the town. So a lot of the coffee shops and places don't have prices. I'd like to know how much my gluten-free avocado toast will be, but if you have to ask, you can't afford it. So
I
don't
know.
ask.
Yeah, and it is this weird line of like, I'm not trying to be anyone who I'm not, but I'm
Yes.
also not like cheap.
Right.
So it's
Mhm.
like, sure, like whatever, but I'm also like, I don't need, when rent's coming up, I don't need to spend $200 on a glass of wine.
No. And like, you want to have an experience.
Exactly.
You just maybe can't have them all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Sometimes that's something you and I need to learn of like, maybe we don't need fancy dinner every night.
Maybe.
Oh, well, just because I said it doesn't mean I've learned it.
Yeah.
Others have said that to me, and I said, that's really smart.
That's smart.
I'm not going to put it into practice.
So in the pool,
Yeah.
I asked you what you did, and you, not in a pretentious way. It's just like, because you never know who you're talking to in Aspen, especially
True.
like at the W.
Best networking place ever.
Ever. And you just go, I work in the music industry.
As we do in the
As we
music
do, as we
industry.
do.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good segue
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
What I actually
to
do.
what I actually do.
I'm just going to read what I saw because I think 700 people in the music industry tagged you in and you like reposted on your story, like, because everyone was
like
just
an
like,
obnoxious bitch.
yes.
Oh no,
but
I was,
think it was
I was
amazing.
living.
I was like,
living.
I was almost like, I'm so excited for her and her new job. Should I repost this and tag her? And I was like, I'm not sure. I'm not in the industry.
My roommate, I mean, she's in it, but she like just started in. She was like, I wanted to repost, but I feel like I didn't have enough like cred to do so. I was
I
like,
know.
no, you're my friend. You can do whatever
I
you
know,
want.
like a lot of really big people. And I felt like it was like, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I like responded to your story. I was like,
Yeah.
congratulations, amazing. But then I was like, should I like tell all the people how amazing? So this is, so was this, my Tinder just popped up. Ryan sent you a new message.
Oh,
Hey,
right.
Rye.
That's my ex-boyfriend's last or first name. So
Listen,
Bad
so
news.
your
Bad news.
ex-boyfriend is not into me, but we think one of my ex-boyfriends might be into you.
Yeah, stay tuned for that one, folks.
No, that's a weird line we don't cross.
No, if someone has ever
Have you ever shared?
never once,
Once. Never once.
but we can't talk about that. And
like
I was
that
the
we're
first.
actual Eskimo siblings, but that's
But that
it's off limits.
I was the first, so I just want to say that.
Okay. That's a plot twist.
And
but
there
continue.
was like 5 years in between too. So
Still counts.
and it wasn't a full hookup.
I can't
neither
wait.
with
on
me.
this.
Neither with me.
Yeah.
Neither with me. But anyway, wait, hold up.
Yes.
So you work in the music industry, and it's also so funny because you will just be casually tagged in like some very big names. We'll just like, you'll be out to dinner somewhere, and it's just like blah blah blah, blue check mark. Oh my god, wonderful getting dinner with Blaike, and I'm like, who is she?
I know.
Who is she?
It's very much a who is she? So
Yeah.
this was this your new company wrote this about you?
It was a conglomeration of me telling them some things, my company doing some things, and then the PR person being like, I'm going to take this and spin this into something.
And they took it.
I
All
know.
right, guys.
No.
So hits noisemakers. Blaike Ford, SVP, Streaming and Artist Development, Range Music, Range Media Partners. Ford has been thanked by Dan and Shay from the stage in front of 15,000 people, dined with the Lumineers at a sushi bar where they were once busboys, heckled Keith Urban at the behest of Nicole Kidman. Okay.
It's such a sentence. See?
Sorry. And baked cookies with Ed Sheeran. At Range, she teams up with DSPs. What's that?
It's all the streaming platforms.
Okay.
Spotify's, Apple, them.
Fabulous.
Okay.
So she teams up with DSPs to further the careers of established creators like Mariah Carey.
Oh, just let's hold on. Let's pause. Just, are you helping Mariah Carey with things?
Yes.
Hey, Mariah, here's my criticism for you. If you could, like, that's the thing.
No,
right?
that's
It's
what
like-
Nick the other day, Nick goes, so do you think she like gives them constructive criticism? Like, is
Not
she-
to Mariah. Just help.
Just help.
Kind help.
Jack Harlow, Cordae, Midland, and Justin Tranter. Semi-Precious Weapons, and he's
Yeah, the
also like the
songwriter.
biggest songwriter.
Yes,
but I don't
I
feel
actually-
like people know that. He's written like a lot of any
Yeah.
of the hits anyone's ever heard
We
of.
just made him the featured songwriter on Spotify for this month. Because
Oh, wow.
it's like
Oh my
some people
gosh.
don't
Oh, wow.
realize what he's been behind, and it's
Yeah.
insane.
I've met him
He's wonderful.
at the Monster Ball. He was because he opened for Lady Gaga, so it was kind of
Yeah.
one of those meet and greet things.
Yeah.
So I didn't like actually like have a conversation with him.
Still
I-
counts.
Yeah, but no, yeah, I met him.
So-
I've always been kind of obsessed.
Do you know though that I chaperoned you to that Monster Ball because he was too young to go?
I wasn't
because
too young
there's
to
6
go,
years
but, like,
between us, but
Right.
you
You
like
drove
needed.
me.
I was 17,
What year
so
was
you
that?
were no.
I was probably. I don't think I could have driven. I was probably 15 or 16.
Okay, so no, you're probably like 14.
I think maybe
15.
yeah,
'Cause-
14, 15.
It was
So a
like you
child.
and 3 of your
Mhm.
little friends, and then I was like the chaperone.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Then I fell in love with Semi-Precious Weapons because I didn't know who they were.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of like fans of Lady Gaga are
Yeah.
really into Justin Tranter.
It translates.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah.
Mhm. And to continue, and
sorry.
such promising newbies as Talk, Haley Witters, and Eliana. Did I pronounce Witters right?
did.
Okay, good. Ford was recently told, "You're the happiest, most joyful person in the music industry," at least until we got to her. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah. Well, actually, Francesca and I were reading this to each other, like, just make it make sense. You know, but we love it.
Yeah.
We're such
Yeah.
fans. Like, I mean, that just sounds so
Well-
interesting. But we were just kind of like,
I got a lot of phone calls and texts after that being like, hello? From like really good friends or new people I've met that just were like, do you want to talk about it? Like, oh my God, LOL.
But I will say what I know from that, just knowing you, and we haven't even, it's not like we've had like such a friendship that we've been like texting so much or like
Right.
even gotten to hang out so much one-on-one, but we like always see each other out.
right,
Yeah.
right,
And I
right.
feel like we recognize a certain something in each other, I would
For
say.
sure.
And, but like the happiest, most joyful person in the music industry, I think that's the biggest thing that people immediately know about you is that you're never not smiling.
Mhm.
You are so passionate about life.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anyone that could say that you're just not doing it.
Yeah.
My boss was like, well, my boss who hates when I say boss. Weird. He's like, can we stop at the boss talk? I was like, well, effectively you are. And he's like, I was like, what would you like me to say in general? He was like, how about thought partner? And I was like, honestly, I love that.
My thought partner?
My thought partner over here.
Wow.
And it's such a testament to where I work and the reason that I work at this place, because that's truly like the mindset and how they want things to feel and act and all that, which I think is magnificent.
Right.
But yeah, he was like, can you get mad? And I was like, yes. And you would not like to see it. He's like, okay, duly noted. Don't make Blaike mad. But it comes with the passion part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be equally as happy as you can be mad because you care.
Yeah.
And my mad is never going to be like mean, but it's like, hello, why did you do what you just did? And for someone who is always as typically smiling and happy, when someone isn't that way, they're like, well, I'm petrified now. I'm like, cool. So this works.
So this works.
Yeah.
I also feel like you're confrontational. Like if you need to say something, you'll say it.
For sure.
Which
Because
a lot of people don't. You're incredibly confrontational, which is good.
Is a very
Some people don't have that energy at all, and
it's a big turnoff to a lot of people. But to me, I just, when I feel something, I say it. And that's why happy, sad, like, but if it needs to happen, I'm not afraid of a conversation ever.
Same.
Because I'd rather have the conversation before it turns into something else.
I think I used to be more afraid. And then I realized that nothing good was coming from that.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't getting out of conversations that I need to have in a way that I felt was productive. And I would walk away being like, I feel worse about all of it. As if I had just spoke in my mind, we would all feel better about everything.
Yeah. That's actually a main point, like in, is it right? In the 4 Agreements.
It's been
that
a long
book,
time
since I don't know if it's the main one, but
speak what you mean.
There was just a book I read, and the biggest thing was like, just don't assume, and how much we go through in life, just like not getting something. Like we assume the other person understands, or we assume that they get it, and just to be honest with it, say what you mean. Don't assume they're going to get upset or take it a wrong way. Just like, say what needs to happen.
Good old assume makes an ass out of you and me. You know?
Yeah.
Always.
We learn that at a young age. And sometimes it doesn't always set in. And then I think as you get older and you go through these experiences, you're like, I feel what they meant, what they said in that now, you know? Like,
Totally.
Yeah. And I think also too with confrontation, sometimes like my pride could get in the way, but I prefer to like swallow that and just talk about it. I'm like, I might look like an idiot, or I don't want to say this, but like I love to just have that conversation and see where the chips fall, and like both people be honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also kind of always been under the impression that if something is going to get destroyed by the truth,
it's not worth it.
It might, or like maybe you need to say it. Like it's sad that like you might like ruin a relationship, or you might have like a weird professional. No,
but that's what I mean. It's not worth that relationship. Probably isn't worth it, because it's like if you can't feel comfortable saying it, then like maybe that person isn't supposed to be in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think people are so like worried about. But it's like, I don't know, man. Like it's gonna happen sooner or later, and like someone needs to say it. So
as you said, the chip shall fall.
The chip shall fall.
I think everything's supposed to happen the way it's supposed to. I know. I was like, this is not talking about how the happy.
We went from like super joyful to slightly dark. But like that's the point, you know.
Well, and how did you end up? I think there's just like so many things. I don't even know like where I want to start questions. To ask you. Yeah. Okay. Let's stay on your career. Okay. How did you get into the music industry, and what exactly do you do?
Yeah.
I know. I hate asking people. So what do you like do? I don't get it. But like, it's like, that's why I'm so interested.
Well, and as the smallest tangent, it's interesting here in Colorado too, because I always say to people, most of my industry obviously doesn't exist here. And so I'm a huge anomaly, and people love to talk about it for, whatever it's worth. And I always say here, when someone asks, what do you do? They're typically asking like, do you ski? Do you snowboard? Do you hike? Do you bike? Like, what do you like to do?
Yes, it has nothing to do with money out here or your socioeconomic background.
And it's not because someone doesn't care and is not interested in your life. And you get into that maybe weeks or months down the line. And some of my best friends out here, I still am not sure what they do for their paycheck. And that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But I sure know that they're like an expert skier or a mountain biker or all that. And I think that that's been a really interesting mindset shift coming from New York.
That's crazy.
Where I lived for, 10 years. And the what do you do question was prominent as ever in terms of, are you important? What is your job?
Yeah.
And, what
they're trying to figure out how much respect they need to give you.
For sure.
Right.
But here, so it's not that wild that you two don't actually know what I do, because that's a different type of question here. So anyways, my small tangent is over.
I love that.
I started, actually, my first job ever was at People Magazine. And I was working in the sales department there, but then we would always have artists come in to do little performances or little interviews or whatever. And I just naturally gravitated towards them, and my bosses recognized that. And they're like, okay, you handle this, you go hang out with them. So it was cool because that's, how I met artists such as Florida Georgia Line before they even had music out, and before they were winning awards and all this. And they were sitting in my conference room and we were just hanging and stuff like that. But anyways, my bosses were super smart and super just intuitive with me. And they sat me down one day and they said, you got to get out of here. And I was like, oh God, what have I done?
I just got chills.
Yeah. Because it's my first job out of college. Like, I've been there a year, and, I'm like, what have I done wrong? Which was my question. They said, absolutely the dead opposite. You've done everything right. We just see your passion for something entirely different, and we don't want to hold you here when you should go chase that.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my mom, and I was like, is this normal? She was like, no, keep those people in your life. Like, they are amazing. And so we would sit down and work on my cover letter and my resume and all this stuff, and apply to jobs, and which again is so crazy. And one of my bosses, Evan, who I loved so dearly, and he said, one day I'll work for you. Cause I asked him, I said, why are you investing this like kind of odd amount of energy and time? And he said, I don't know. I just believe in you, kid. And I was like, whew, okay. So anyways, one of the jobs I applied for on the website was Spotify. And 3 months later, give or take, after interviews, got in as if it's college. It kind of felt like it because I don't know, there were maybe like 100 people in New York, and it was a small little thing, and no one really knew what we were doing. And so it felt like this little tiny just collective of
like
humans.
Club. Yeah.
Pretty much. This elite club, So started there, and started kind of in like the sales and brands and partnerships world, started saying, how do we involve artists in this? Started bringing artists into the fold with brands who had a music interest, et cetera. Then moved on and created all of our music marketing teams. And so that was, artist marketing. So when an artist has a new record, we were saying, how do we make this a bigger deal? And that was back in the day when artists were not putting records on streaming platforms the day they came out, because they weren't sure of what the value of them was, which is crazy to think about now. But so we'd say, okay, you don't want to put it on Spotify. What if we were to put X amount of money into marketing for it? And then can you? So that's crazy background. Anyways. Did that, playlist marketing, genre marketing, content marketing, built out what podcast marketing looked like, which here we are now, which is crazy. So did all that, and then moved into kind of like an editorial space and product space at Spotify, and did that for a while. And then, goodness gracious, I was sitting on the mountain one day here in Breckenridge after I picked up my life and put it in my car and moved out here from New York, not knowing a soul and just trusting that the universe would hang out with me. And Landslide came on in my headphones as I was sitting on the top of the mountain. And I was like, oh God, I'm quitting my job. So then I left and took 6 months off, which was dicey. It's dicey. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. In the music industry, no one takes even a day off. We're trying to change that narrative and saying, time for yourself or time with your family or time in just general is healthy.
Life experiences.
Like do something that's not your job tomorrow, maybe for once. So taking time off was petrifying, but I knew I needed it to kind of reevaluate where I wanted to be and who I wanted to be surrounded by. And so then I fell in the lap of my new company, which is like the greatest thing since sliced bread that I can't even eat because gluten is the devil.
That's another thing we bonded over.
Oh, you gluten-free?
Another gluten-free girl. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We respond to each other's stories of food pretty often.
She'll have something. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had that gluten-free bagel yet. Show me where. But yeah, so now taking all of the things that I learned in my past 8 years at Spotify into this company, I head up all of the streaming efforts and artist development for our entire roster.
Okay.
And my company is super unique in that we have, it's film, TV, and music. And we have some crazy heavy hitters in the fold there. So I get to work on, as you were mentioning, the Jack Harlows and the Mariah Careys and the Cordaes of the world, which is insane that's something that I get to spend my day on. And then I get to equally work on developing artists who I love and feel so passionate towards, and get to like really dive in and understand who they are as artists and what they want to be, both as artists, humans, creators, if they want to be an actor, actress one day, if they want to have a brand one day, like all that type of stuff. And just kind of moving the needle on that, which is a dream. And I do it from Colorado, even though not supposed to. But honestly, the Colorado topic in the music industry has been very interesting because I think you can both attest, and you've seen, like, there's a lot of music that comes through Colorado. It's an insane touring market, but there's no industry here. Yeah. For really no good reason. So I'm trying to.
Wow, I've never thought about something like that.
Yeah, there's a few music management companies that exist here and there in the Denvers of the world, whatever. But it's, obviously the main cities in music are LA, Nashville, New York, London, Atlanta. And we're not exactly on the map at that. So,
but everyone wants to come here.
Yeah. Well, it's been a respite too for artists. Some of my coworkers have come and spent some time and said, one of my best friends is this beautiful artist. And she said, I think I need to come there and write. And, that's not an anomaly because you've got the Post Malones of the world who live in Utah, and John Mayer, he goes out to the mountains to create records. So obviously we're all inspired by the nature that we have at our fingertips every day. Yeah. And a lot of artists have come to visit and created records that I'm like, you did that in my house. Like, how cool is that? Yeah. So it's been a really unique experience of being what my friends like to pretend or to tell me, like, you are an executive in the music industry. I'm like, no, I'm just a gal trying to help out, Yeah. But being an executive in Colorado.
Oh.
It's hilarious.
I think
to not be based. I mean, you always are elsewhere.
Yes.
But you decided to pick up your life and to still have this career and doing what you're doing from Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing.
The remote mountains.
Yeah.
That's one thing that Francesca and I were like talking about, like when we were just kind of trying to figure out what you did. And we were like, so does she just like Zoom Mariah Carey from the mountains?
From that deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I try. Oh, yeah.
You're just like,
yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Where else would I do it?
I mean, I am on a plane more than I think I cook in my own kitchen.
Yeah.
So I travel. I was just like you said, I was in Nashville for a week, and I'm in LA every 2 weeks. But the fact of the matter is, everyone is kind of everywhere right now because of what life has been over the past few years, and people have decided to think a little bit more about how they best exist.
Yeah.
And for me, this was like the best existence I've ever experienced. But yeah, people are all over the place, and I travel to be with them or Zoom with them. But yeah, it's always, I have a nickname in my company called Blue Sky Blaike now, which is because I sit out there and take my calls, and Colorado has
just with
the most sunny days
sky.
of all. But they're like, it's also a lot to say about your character. Like you're blue sky all the time. And I'm like, yeah, there's a cloud that comes in here and there. But for the most part, what I try to bring to my team or those around me that I'm trying to mentor is like a strong word, but just help guide or exist, whatever, is to think as blue as possible.
Wow.
And to think as like up high in the sky as possible. You know, when it comes to a lot of the artists, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? What's your dream? Like, give me your laundry list that is so wild, and I'm not going to give it to you tomorrow. We're not going to get there, but like we should start chipping away at it, you know? So this whole Blue Sky Blaike thing, at first I laughed, but then I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to roll with this.
I love
Blue Sky
that.
Blaike.
Yeah.
And
BSC, Backstreet Boys.
I think it's so wonderful too. Like when we started with the why, like of this podcast, I have like a couple thoughts of what you said. It's like, we just wanted to make people laugh.
Sure.
And everything is so serious these days, and everybody's trying to like have a really strong opinion. And like, we love to say like, what's this podcast about? Nothing important. But like with our last podcast we did and a bunch of the people we're going to have on, like we've weirdly found this mix of like, we're just hanging out with friends.
Sure.
It's not like a straight and just a hardcore interview.
Right.
But like, just as far as like it's teaching me to be more intentional, like with my life. Cause even just what you said, like I'm learning so much from you that I think in our normal day-to-day conversation, I wouldn't get.
Yeah.
And so it's just like getting a little deeper.
That's why people always said, go on a podcast or write a book, because the things that you talk about in a regular day sometimes I wish they were just like written down so I could read them.
Mhm.
Like what one of my 17 million businesses or thought processes, whatever, is Ford's frames. And because I think so much of the way in which you frame things in life can really affect the way someone feels about them or does things. Like I use this example all the time. I have beaten the dead horse, and but it's like
not on camera.
Nope.
We're new here.
Hey.
But like, okay, so you have a high-powered executive and you have a fresh assistant, both excited. And that executive needs that assistant to print a piece of paper, which is arguably the most mundane task of all. And this is like back in office days, because do offices exist? Hard to say.
Hard to say.
But so if you were to just say to that assistant, hey, can you print this piece of paper? They'd probably roll their eyes and walk over there begrudgingly to the printer and grab it and walk back. However, if you were to say, this incredible deal just came across our desk. We're about to sign XYZ artist or film and TV star, and it's about to unlock XYZ amount of opportunity and revenue. And if we don't sign this paper, today, then, or we have to sign this paper today to make it done. That assistant's probably running to the printer and if that person says, and you'll be involved in this whole project, like it's all about how you frame it, and I think that the more that people can take that approach and think about how they're shaping the lives of those that are helping them, particularly younger folk, which is what I love to do in my job all the day long. Like, how cool is that,
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the younger girls was like, can I get a Ford's frame every morning? And I'm like, oh, sure. Why not?
Love that.
But it's little things like that
Yeah.
that you don't always think about in our day to day. But if you sit down and do something like this, it kind of opens the box to really converse in a different way too.
I would love to get literally, I feel like just little blurbs. I feel like I've gotten I'm like, you know what? Like I should frame it this way, or because I manage some girls and I haven't been like the best at making them feel like so involved in what we're doing. But you kind of inspired me to do that. So I think Ford's frames you should absolutely do.
The new age version of the coffee table book that's like little quips and things that you're like, oh,
it's a text message. We're millennials.
I was going to say, we are existing in our time. Go us. Which I don't always do. I feel like I'm an old soul, but that's neither here nor there.
Do you think you're an old soul?
That.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the sunrise sunset thing.
Oh, yeah.
The both situation where I'm like, a lot of people, in addition to we have no idea what you do. They're like, we have no idea how old you are. And I'm like, yeah, that's normal.
I could see that.
It's either, they're like, I don't know, you could be 24
literally
or like 40.
24, or you could tell me you were 45 and I'd be like, well, because some people are so filled with joy, they don't age.
Yeah.
But also
I think I've aged, but you don't know. It's just like, I think that there's a young energy that I keep within me, but then also I have a very old soul and reverence for, I don't want to say the past, but I don't know. My favorite thing to do, among a few other things, is actually, no, let me take this back. Parents and I, best friends.
Best friends.
Your parents are all parents.
All parents. I mean,
I could see that.
My parents and I are also best friends, but put me in a room with a bunch of, I was going to say adults, but I am an adult, but
no, I know what you mean.
Older adults and oof.
We're similar to that in a sense. One, when I was in high school, everybody else would be downstairs drinking secretly from the adults. I was always upstairs having a glass of wine with the parents and just chatting, and I'd want to know what was going on and what do they do, and that was my favorite. But then also, you're one of the only people I know who is as close to their parents as we are.
Yes.
Your parents are your best friends.
I didn't know that.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
And yes,
best friends.
And I witnessed you guys, and I feel my relationship with my parents within the same as yours. We're thick as thieves.
Yeah.
And I was an only child, so I think only children, either they go one of two ways in that. They either are best friends with their parents, or they're like, I want nothing to do with you. It's very rare you kind of find that middle ground just by nature of how it exists.
Yeah, for sure.
Structure. I obviously took the former route of we're going to be best friends.
I feel like your parents birthed a best friend of theirs.
Yeah.
And how rare is that? You guys just have, I don't know, you guys get along so well from what I know from Instagram stories.
Oh, well, from Peg on Instagram, who just should be famous one day. Well, but yeah, we were always close, but it wasn't until we became adults, or I became an adult, they were always adults, that I think we all had a moment one day where we were like, we're best friends.
We are best friends.
This is, and as adults, best friends.
Yeah.
My mom and I, and dad, but my mom and I particularly during the very beginning of quarantine, spent a concentrated 4 months together. And that was when you like could not leave your home and like were using like sparing amounts of toilet paper, you know? And we literally have not spent that much time together since I think I was probably 4. Because if you think about it, even when you're a kid, you're going to school, you're playing sports, you're going to play at your friend's house, all this. And I was doing way too many things because that was just my vibe.
Of course.
But yeah, so that was the first time we spent, you know, the better portion of 24 hours every single day together. And she looked at me one day and she was like, dude, I really like you. And I was like, I really like you too. Aww. Like, how fun is this? Like, we're best friends and in the most genuine of ways. And, you know, it takes some time. And I think you work out some kinks as you grow up as a kid and into a teenager and adult to say what works as a parent and child and then what works as a peer to peer. Yeah. And those are like 2 kind of different things. But I feel like you guys have the same thing with your parents and it's cool. We
always say that, like, we're a fucking mob.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm jealous because we're just like 3. We're mighty, but we're small.
We are a small mafia. Yeah. And it can be hard. Yeah, exactly. We are like that. Not like judgmental and we're not like pretentious or think that other people like aren't into it, but a little, maybe.
I mean, perhaps
it's just like the piazzas, and we kind of roll up, and we all have such strong personalities.
And so I don't know. Last name is Piazza. Like,
yeah, and I guess I don't know your parent. I've met your parents, of course, at RMU as well. Same place.
Where all the things happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
RMU. You're welcome, RMU. Free promo.
Center of the world.
I almost wore an RMU t-shirt today on
accident. I saw one upstairs. We could have done it.
I was like, oh no, 2 logos.
We need an intermission to change outfits.
Yeah. That's what I did. Our brother, he lives in New York, but we like for his last birthday, because he skis and he loves RMU because everyone does. I sent him a box of RMU swag.
Great gift.
And he was so excited. He's like, also because no one knows what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
like, tell me more.
And then you're like, oh, it's an like underground ski shop.
Right.
That's also the best cocktail bar in town.
Correct.
With live music.
Cocktails.
And you're like, and it's a dog bar.
Yeah. So do you need anything more?
Yeah. Exactly.
So just drive your mountain bike up, get it tuned, grab, an Aperol Spritz, and then listen to some house music.
Yeah.
Or go sit on the patio and,
But yeah, I guess I don't know how your parents are in every day, but like our parents are all like when people meet us and then they meet our parents, they're like, this is who birthed you. So like it makes sense. I would say your parents are all very smiley and just like excited and like out there. So it's like, oh, it makes sense that you're their child.
We make complete sense. Like, I mean, we have beautiful differences as most do, but it's definition apple doesn't fall far from the tree with the Ford fam.
Yeah.
And there is no question. I always said there's no question that I was not adopted, and
I know
nothing against adoptions. Like, thank God for adoption. Some of the most beautiful things have come of it. But like, not only do we look exactly alike, and they're like, my dad always says, she got her brains from her mother and her looks from me. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that.
I don't know.
Sir, don't know that's the best thing.
I am a female and you are a male, but
yeah.
Okay. But yeah, we all look exactly the same. And then I'm like, do my parents look the same? I don't even know. You can dive deep on that. But
I'm going to go stalk Peg.
Oh, you should. Peg needs her own reality show. Like,
we should also
put her on the boat. We need a house mother.
Nick can also have his own reality show.
Oh, is your dad's name Nick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's named Nick.
Everyone is named Nick.
Yeah. But like Nick doesn't love the camera as much as Peg does. Like, I wouldn't call Peg a ham, but she's like down to like be filmed and be captured. And whereas my dad's like, no pictures, please. And I'm like, but Dad, it's funny. But he is like,
document.
Yeah. Peg loves when I document. Because also what I've learned via my documentation of Peg is that there are more P's in this world than I realized. P words.
Yeah.
P-words.
There's always an alliteration.
Oh, so you could be like,
you name it. Party Peg.
Percy Peg. Yeah. Okay.
And it helps that she's a physical therapist.
Wait, I don't know why my first word was Pythagoras. I was going to Pythagoras Peg
ever.
loves esoteric knowledge of math.
She does. She was a math major.
Oh my God.
So correct.
Pythagoras the best.
Yeah, you fell right into that.
Make her a shirt. We're starting merch.
Luckily, my dad makes t-shirts, so he could make her one.
Perfect. Right. Pythagoras Peg.
Someone give us the boat with the crew.
We've got the stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Can't blame that.
Now your mom can count how many times she's mentioned on the podcast.
Oh, my mom, she is why half the people on Instagram follow me. I swear. Because they're like, yo, Peg was funny the other day. I'm like,
she's a character.
Yeah.
Nick, I can't believe you don't know this.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't. Because I follow you.
Yeah,
pretty,
well, Peg
like,
and I haven't been around each other as much lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the heyday of quarantine, it was just Peg and Blake content all day long.
So you guys hadn't met yet?
Yeah,
true. Because we met,
you met
earlier.
before the early pandemic.
No, because we didn't move to Breckenridge, but we had met. Well, I guess it was like before we moved to Aspen,
early.
But you had just spent a bunch of time with your parents, and I just followed along.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's some deep content there.
So we didn't meet for a while.
I know.
Until
There's a lot of time to catch up on.
Yeah.
But
we
it
had
can be
run
done.
into each other at least 5 times at RMU until you guys met.
True.
I would say.
Oh,
True.
I had no idea. It's one of my
My
favorite
parents
days.
live in South Carolina now, and they just do oyster roasts all the time. And my mom called me recently. She was like, I had 65 oysters last night. Don't tell anyone. I'm like,
65.
Peg.
That's something that
and Peg
I would
is
do.
like this big. And
Right.
I'm like, where
Tiny.
did you put them? She's like, they're oysters. They just like go on down. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like because it is just like nutrients.
So do they live in Charleston?
They live in a place called Okatee, which
Okay.
is near to like Beaufort and Bluffton.
Okay.
You fly into Savannah, then you have Hilton Head. It's like an hour-ish from Charleston. So you
Okay.
kind of have that.
Can we have
all.
a Charleston trip?
Yeah,
I
let's
love
go.
Charleston.
Never been.
I went on a surf trip.
No, I
It was
have a couple
awesome.
friends there, and like
Same. We should
I've
go.
just heard that it's okay because like how you describe Breckenridge, how it's like it's like nowhere else in the world,
correct.
and it never land.
Also correct.
And I've just heard this about it that it's like some place though that if you go, like you will love it. It's like this best kept secret. Obviously, it's not a secret, but it's just like a different way of life.
It's magical.
And
We should go.
there's reasons why there's no place in the U.S. like it. It's because the Civil War happened. It's the only city that wasn't destroyed in the wreckage. Like in the war, it's the only non-war torn city of America.
Yeah.
Of the South.
It's great.
Oh,
So it's architecture.
so they didn't have to rebuild. That's why it's all old plantations and like beautiful. Okay,
And it has like it's not like French New Orleans, but it kind of gives you that like kind of like
It does.
balcony wraparound porch.
do you know a fun fact about our family? Mom
There are
and dad,
many.
in Charleston. Mom and dad honeymooned in Charleston.
I did know that actually.
Okay.
I did know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, the architecture there, and just I am a aspiring photographer. I just like to take pictures, as we all do. But my thought around this, I was in Charleston, and most recently, and I saw this beautiful home with just like this perfect bike propped up on it. It was just like a quintessential Charleston photo, and I was taking a bunch, and I posted one of them. And as my life would have it, because my life is just one big serendipitous sitcom, as it says, my friend replies, and he was like, "That is my bike against my friend's house." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "You literally just photographed my bike against my friend's house. Also, hi, you're in Charleston." And I was like, "What are the odds that?" And I was like, "Well, you're welcome for the nice photo."
Wow.
Also, like, what?
But this is something we talked about before you came on, is because people are always like, "How'd you start a podcast?" And people are like, the craziest shit happens to you guys.
Yeah.
You need to start recording it. And there's few people that I know that are like us that it's like, of course that would happen. Of course you would get cast in this. Of course you would meet that person. Of course you would be best friends with them. And of course, like that would happen to you. Just running into, just very serendipitous and living. I like to call it on the wave.
Okay, I like that.
You know how like, have you ever surfed?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're trying to get up there and you're trying to get up, but then when you get up and you're on there, I feel like when you're in this serendipitous time, and I've noticed in life, and that's how I describe it, that I've fallen off the wave when certain synchronicities like stop happening.
Yep.
And I just feel very frustrated.
Yeah.
And because sometimes like once you're just sort of in that mindset that you're not going to catch another one, you feel frustrated and you can't get back on it. But then sometimes the smallest thing can happen and get you back on that wave. And then that wave is just like this beautiful connection of different wonderful moments of
100%.
meeting people. And it doesn't mean you don't wake up and have a bad morning or this and that. You can still be on the wave. It doesn't like immediately throw you off, but it almost kind of seems like this tide that you push in to where your life just kind of goes differently.
Agreed. One of my Ford's frames was all about waves. So I'll send you that one.
Yeah,
in
please.
The text.
Because it's just really crazy. And you meet certain people who kind of know about it.
Yep.
And they're like, yeah, like once I decided this and things started changing, then weirdly everything started falling into place and I met the right person at the right time and they led me to here. And yeah, I'll just, and I say it to Nick all the time, I'm like, we're on the wave right now.
Yeah.
We are on the wave.
It's so real.
It is real. I feel like we need to, I'm seeing like, we were talking about boats, trip, cameras, content, like a big like yacht trip, waves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a theme.
I feel like we need to,
I think so too.
on the wave. That could be the episode of this.
Oh, sure. Let's just start another business. Why don't we? One of
Why
a
not?
million. Yeah, it's funny. Like there's something about a wavelength, and then there's something about sound and wavelength and music. So we're really in on this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. My mom always says though, she's like, if you don't run into someone you know every single day, I'm surprised. Because she said there's something about, she actually used the word wavelength in terms of it. She's like, there's something about the way you carry yourself and the wavelength that you live on that just like attracts that / your life. It's just crazy. And I was laughing because I was taking a solo road trip recently, as we were talking about, which was just, oh my goodness, epic. Like talk about great time to think and experience and exist and also take the best photos and just experience things, all this. But I was like, well, I'm not going to see anyone that I know for like 2 days on this road trip. And
famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I didn't know this person. So I'm driving my first day. And for whatever reason, I noticed that there was one car beside me that we were traveling on the same wavelength, if you will, for like a good portion of time. I was like, oh,
well, they become your buddy.
they were my buddy. We
like
had
on the
a few
highway,
just like smiles and just like, we're in this
I
together.
love that.
And sometimes when
Yeah.
you are alone, having like a buddy next door, you're like, okay, we're doing this drive together. And I was like, I have no idea where this guy's going, but he's in a Tacoma. He's going somewhere, and I'm with him in my Jeep, and here we are. So I was on my way ultimately to the Pacific Northwest, and I was stopping in Twin Falls, which, by the way,
Idaho?
Twin Falls, Idaho, correct.
Idaho, okay.
And where I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but the Shoshone Falls or Shoshane Falls, something.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know.
So my friend that I was going to visit, I said, where should I stop midway? Like I've never done this drive, not super familiar. And he said, stop here. It's the Niagara Falls of the West. And I was like, cool. I've seen the Niagara Falls.
Done.
I'm trying to see them again.
Sounds great.
And he was not wrong. Like these things shook me to my core. Again, me and myself and my camera were just out there just being like, how cool is this? And it's a place that, you're not going to say, I'm going to go fly there and go book a vacation there. But now I'm like, that was an amazing experience. Had 2 solo dinners that night because I couldn't decide between restaurants.
My girl.
So I went to both and I was like, I'll just go have some here and then I'll
Right.
go
I love
have
you.
some here and made a bunch of friends along the way, whatever. But yeah, so I stopped in Twin Falls, and then my next day I was carrying on to go up to Vancouver, Washington. And midway through the trip, I look over and there's my guy in the Tacoma. And
It's
I was
you.
like, I'm seeing someone I know today. Like, I don't know him, but like that was my pal yesterday. And I was like, in that moment, I wanted to call my mom, but I was in the depths of the nature, and there was no service. On that drive, I saw more cattle than cars, for sure.
For sure.
But I was like, man, it still holds true no matter where you go. And it was just a fun moment of being like, you're always with someone even when you're alone.
I know.
In a cool way.
You're never alone.
No, you're
never
not.
alone.
And it's like, it's also, you can make friends wherever you go. Obviously, I never met that guy, but sure, he was cool.
How funny though is how small the world is when you're on that wavelength.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very similar. I'm not even saying like a top wavelength or a bottom wavelength. I would say like where we are as grasping for great things and booked and busy. And we're in these industries and like trying to do this and go there. And you're just like open to meeting people and wanting the best for people and want to collab, but you want to be around those entrepreneurial people. And you start to like, there's this certain group of people that
function in that reality.
Yeah, so like between Tulum and New York and LA and Miami.
Yeah.
And then the mountains are weirdly in there. And you start to realize that world is very small.
It is.
And everybody knows everyone. And
yeah, you saying that reminds me of 2 things. One, I love no +1 events because the person behind, literally just as you were saying, the person behind that knows they're bringing the right people into the room who are bound to get along and are bound to have conversations and maybe would not have met because they brought their friend,
someone else,
and they were not going to just go chat to a stranger. But all that, my friend does events like this all the time, and I think he's so good at it. And he's like, I just know. He always says, I don't want to say I'm like curating the group because that
some people are curators of people.
Yeah.
Weirdly. And it's opened me up to the best things because like he like one time bought a table and curated 3 friends who did not know each other.
Yep.
One of them is now one of my best friends. The other one I ended up living with 2 weeks later. And it would have never happened had it not be like that.
No, and I wasn't even going to go on this tangent, but now I'm going to. Because that is the perfect iteration of leaving space.
Yes.
So as we were talking about, like I have this whole just mindset and mantra that is about the beauty of leaving space in your life. And that manifests, again, like I was saying, whether it's in your day and your calendar and just leaving a little time open because you just don't know what slots in, but also in your heart, in your mind and all this, so that when you go to those events, you're open to talking to that stranger. And because you have a little bit of space, you're like, yeah, come on in. And then next, they might be your best friend. Like you just said about that table, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of my dearest friends in the world, and I love her, and she's like, no new friends. Which one day will be my bar. Like literally, spoiler alert, I will have a bar called No New Friends. Because I am the dead opposite of that. And the whole point of the bar is actually to make new friends. But she, like many people, when they kind of hit a certain age, said, I've got enough great people in my life, no disrespect, but I can't keep up with anymore, which I understand that as well. I am definitely of the opposite. I'm like, I don't know who I'm going to meet tomorrow. They might be amazing. And if you leave space for that to happen, we are a perfect example of that, right? Like we had this space for people and now look at us just thriving, chatting for 17 hours. And it's a really, really cool thing. But I think as you get a little older, you kind of find yourself in different types of spaces, whether they're curated or not, whereby the people surrounding you are ones you're probably going to want to talk to.
Yeah.
And interact with. Not always.
Isn't that funny how that changes though?
I know.
You really start to wonder if they're who you should be spending your time with.
Yeah. And it takes you to have a little thought on your own time when you have solo dates to say, who am I? What do I care about? Who do I care about? What do I want to just exist as and surround myself with? And it's a really important thing to do as you get older because, or in general in life, but as a kid, you just don't have that kind of thought process. But as an adult, it's like you have that option to kind of choose a little bit more.
Well, I've always found it weird. Like two of my pretty much best friends, I spent elementary school with them because you really are. And I just hear more people saying like, I didn't have any friends in high school. I'm like, yeah, probably not because you only hang out.
No judgment.
Well,
but
no.
not.
Like, no, I'm saying like you only have like 300 people to choose from. It's like, they might not be your people, you know? But then, in elementary schools, even smaller, but then like once you get into college, there's so many more people and you can like find your kind of like, your drive. But I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Like, who are you spending time with and who comes into your life?
Yeah.
So with leaving space, I think that people are sometimes their most magical and why people fall in love like on vacation or really magical serendipitous things happen to them on vacation is just because they're leaving that space.
Yeah.
And because like in their day to day, they wake up, they do this, they go to work, and they hang out with people they know. Agreed. So they haven't left space for the universe to give them what it's trying so hard to give them because they haven't left that open. And you hear a lot of people falling in love on vacation. It's because you're most free, you're most magical, you're happy. And I think when you're on that wavelength, you're there to find somebody else of that, but you've left space open.
Yeah.
For that, which your Thursday night happy hour, it's probably just you talking to your girlfriends and you're not open to that.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side of that, my friends and I have been having a lot of conversation around workplace love, which is a dicey topic. But like, arguably, if you choose a space for work, it's because you love something, right? And the same way that like where you are on vacation is because you're doing something that you love or you want to explore. And like the same with work. And someone's like, is it cool to date someone in the workplace or not? And I'm like, well, you're actually kind of your most you in the workplace if you're doing a job that you love, which we talked about the whole passion over paycheck thing. And sometimes you do a job that you love so much. And you're like, you're probably going to find your person in that regard. or you might find them on vacation. But it's like such a sticky topic that I think is so interesting. And, you know, you always have to like report if you're dating someone at work. But I'm like, when you work somewhere, it's kind of like the people who you're surrounding yourself with. Like I said, when I joined my company, I was like, I want to surround myself with people who I am inspired by, that I just like genuinely enjoy my time with. And it's so dicey. But like,
I think
I'm so curious on thoughts.
that you're so lucky in that. I don't think people are working at a place that they can say that about.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'm short-sighted in that.
You're working in this like amazing, wonderful, like I think when anyone is living their bliss and doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is what you're doing, that you are just in that mindset to meet those same type of people. But I think a lot of people like the work thing is kind of their last piece. They're like, I really want to be doing this. So even if they're working a job and they want to be a dog sledding person, I think when they're living, I don't know. I saw a dog sledding thing today. There's a dog sledding farm or not farm, like a dog sled company here in Breckenridge.
So they train for the Iditarod?
No. They just
I want to do
little,
that.
You guys,
like
not
tours.
to change the subject. I'm going to stay on the thought, but
I'm in.
You can go and they're practicing all summer. And so you can dog sled with them in the summer and hang out with all the dogs. It's local. We can go anytime.
Are we going tomorrow?
Yes. No, I'm literally like, we can go do it. I haven't told you about this yet today, Nick.
I don't like dogs, but it sounds like a you thing. You like a you too?
Nick doesn't like dogs. He likes certain dogs that he knows and loves. Like he likes his niece, Za.
Yeah.
Thank God. But he wouldn't choose to hang out with her.
Did you have a bad experience with
No,
a dog?
not at all.
Okay. You're just not your thing.
No, I didn't mean to get on dogs. I just mean like.
That's a polarizing topic.
I know, but
Worse than the workplace love.
Actually, I'm actually not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're
because
people really get some hate for him.
People think I'm hating on their entire lives and identity when I say these things.
That's what I mean. It's like some people are like, I don't understand.
And then if people will send me that meme, shh, just let people enjoy things. I said, no, it's fine. I just don't want your dog shitting on my carpet. You can't bring him over.
That's fair.
But the dog slaying thing sounds fun. Because why I bring this up? You go, I haven't even told you, Nick. I haven't even told you.
They were in the cage with all the dog sledding puppies. My friends I saw on their Instagram recently. And I was like, where and am I allowed to go? And she's like, yeah, like you can go to this place anytime, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I thought it was like a private tour they got. And like, no, we can go.
Like a stables, but for a kennel.
I went dog sledding once, not in the summer, like in the winter, with the snow. Fucking blast. I met a dog named Blake. And
it's like, of course.
I know. Maybe this podcast is called Of Course.
Of course.
Yeah, I met this dog named Blake and we just fell in love. I'll show you this picture one day. We kind of looked alike. Maybe that was just me thinking that. But it was so fun. We should dog sledding.
I think dog sledding sounds really fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. It's also very chill.
I met a horse that I was working with.
I'm sorry.
No,
Please continue.
I just
this
met,
is a zoology podcast.
We always talk about animals too much.
Was it named Nick?
No. Its name was Napoleon.
Well, close.
But no, and it was funny because like the but the horse, horses can be gay. It was a gay horse.
Yeah.
And like it was a gay horse that was like super extroverted and everyone liked. And this horse like took such a liking to me. And the person who like owned the stables was like, wow, like, he really likes you. But the person who owned it really knew me and was like, actually, if I were to put you in horse form, it'd be Napoleon. And it's funny that Napoleon just loves you. So like Napoleon.
So you're dating Napoleon now?
I mean, honestly.
Wait, I'm sorry. Horses can be gay?
Yeah. Also, okay, how do you determine that a horse is gay?
They don't care about mares. And they only hang out with their buddy. Because they get couples. They don't have sex. I mean, they might like mount each other like a dog, but they don't have like
and
intercourse.
we've taken a turn in this portion.
I haven't recovered from like, horses can be gay.
Yeah,
so Napoleon was gay. And I was
horses are incredibly gay.
Nonchalantly.
They have friends, but then they have like, they don't get jealous of their friends.
The racing horses are gay?
Probably most. Aren't jockeys gay?
Well, that's where I was going because I feel like jockeys are kind of gay maybe.
Or are they just small? And we're being fucking homophobic.
Super short-sighted.
I don't know. I'm sure we have a friend who's like in the horse world.
We need a zoologist on the podcast.
Yeah,
because we keep talking about like dogs and horses.
But I bet you we could find someone who's friends with a jockey.
Yeah. We know enough people.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
I'm thinking of Aspen, and I'm just saying there's like a lot of horses. I guess it's not horse racing, but it's polo. But I feel like polo people have to be related to the horse.
Translates. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a job this weekend in Aspen.
What?
Find a jockey.
Why were you bringing up dog sledding?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I feel like you had a point with the dog sledding.
Yeah, there's a point there.
And I'm
And you
usually
just said
I'm usually pretty good at bringing it back to the
Because
point.
we were talking about like workplace love, but Nick and I have
And then you just
never.
went dog
And
sledding.
we went to gay horses.
The gay
Workplace
horses.
love to gay horses.
Immediately you turned.
Taking a left, right,
But
I'm not sure.
I was gonna say in workplace love, neither Nick or I have worked in big companies like that where there would be options. Like
Well, I worked for a summer camp.
Well, for the summer camp, but
And that was
Did
like,
you fall in love?
well, no, one of the biggest things is like, you should, like, the biggest thing you could do is like marry someone that you met at summer camp. It's like
Yeah.
very romantic. The ex-boyfriend Ryan, I was telling you, met him at camp,
yeah.
but he's an
Sounds
ex.
like a love story.
Yeah.
Mm.
No.
Could it be a future not ex?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So there was that for you. I lived and worked in New York, but it was always for boutique agencies.
Yeah.
So
The
like
pool
there
is
was
small.
4 other people in my office.
I know,
And the only man that worked in my office was gay.
of course.
yeah.
Okay,
in New
so
York.
options not galore.
Yeah, I never lived or worked in that environment at all. I mean, in the service industry, yes,
Yeah.
but that's also like it is very normal for everyone to hook up at the same restaurant. It's very
Yeah.
incestual.
Unpack
It's very
that. Yeah.
drug fueled. It's very alcohol fueled. Very different. So that's not
Yeah.
corporate romance.
Well,
It's not
that's
off the
kind of
table.
music industry, drug fueled, alcohol fueled. No, I'm kidding. We're very.
Oh,
pure.
I'm sure that you have some of those
All
stories.
just professionals.
Yeah, just,
We are. We just like to have fun.
Yeah.
Well, it's like this past trip I took in Nashville. Some of my Colorado friends are really getting to know my life a little bit more just because work has come back. Like when I first was living here, work was arguably, it wasn't dead, but we weren't doing all these trips that we used to do and going to these events and all this. So
they didn't know what you did
Yeah,
or who
like-
you would like. Mhm.
I remember one of the first times I went to Red Rocks with some friends and I was like, all right, guys, we have to go to front of house. And there's a house here. I was like, no, okay, just follow me, like continue. And I, had to meet up with the manager and all this and just doing my normal life. And they were like, are you important? And I was like, no, I'm not important. I'm just living my life. It's just like what it is. But now that work has come back a ton more in terms of traveling and events and all this, one of my friends was like, so this whole thing you've been doing for the past week where it just looks like you're just hanging out with, important people and doing things like that's your job. It's like, well, it's part of it.
It's part of it.
It's just like how we exist and live. But it's like, it's a very unique thing in the music industry of just the way we exist. That is very unlike other industries.
Other industries, for sure.
And it's very hard to decipher the line between the work and the play because play is work and work is play, but that's just because we love what we do. Not
Yeah.
always. I hate my job.
That's why I think that your industry and like you being so high up in it is just fascinating.
Oh yeah. It's a wild world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it seems so ideal to get into and I love it. So like, I think it is, but there's a lot as with anything that is very not seen and not ideal. And it's just, I don't know. It's a show for sure.
My favorite, I'm loving this about the wine industry. It's the same thing.
Sure. Absolutely.
Very work hard, play hard,
Yep.
and not as stuffy.
Yeah.
Like, and I've just been kind of seeing that because I've worked in even like a creative agency in New York. There's
Mm-hmm.
still just this like, oh, we're not cussing or we're this. And I hated corporate. And of course, not every corporate job is like this.
Sure.
But a lot of them, it's like pretending to be someone you're not during the day, or you can't say what you did on the weekend. Now in industry, when you're working as a bartender, you're like, hey guys, haven't slept. You
Yep.
might still be on drugs.
Yep.
Give me a Red Bull. We might need to do something else. Like it is very
Normal.
open.
Very normal.
Yeah.
But then contrastingly, I've lived a lot of my life in corporate where it's like, oh, I had a nice time this weekend.
Yeah.
And your job is to kind of not let people know too much about you.
That can't happen in music because half of our life takes place on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because
so you have to be really careful.
Well, it's interesting. Like we talk about this regularly. So much of our jobs actually are on social media. We have to post about our artists all the time and we want to. Like that's a big piece of it. And it's the way you make connections and the way you do promotion and marketing all exists on these platforms. So then there's this conversation around, do I also show my life on these platforms because my whole industry is on them? And some people take the approach of like the close friends and other people like myself. I'm like, you know what? It's my life. Like take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And granted, my life is not like X-rated by any means. I'm just going on too many hikes or whatever, or skiing too many days. But it is really interesting in terms of how people approach the what you show or what you don't show in terms of how it relates to your jobs and your coworkers. And then that goes deeper in terms of what we were talking about of what your relationship is with those coworkers and what the intention is. And do you want to be best friends or you just want to be the people that show up and work together and then carry on your merry way?
I loved, we had the rosé event with my company the other day. So it's all you can drink from all these wineries. And my CEO had like a bunch of thoughts about posting and some other things. And he goes, oh man, I'm so sorry guys. We were in a big group text. What am I thinking posting this early on like the day after an event? And it was like at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Which like normally you'd be like, oh my God, it's like 9 a.m. I'm like, I should like respond to these. And instead he was like apologizing to us, be like, respond later. You guys are good. I know we all had a great time last night.
Oh, that's nice. I do like the company. It just seems nice that you guys.
Well, I think like in wine, everybody drinks.
Everybody drinks.
There's a baseline understanding.
Yeah. And everybody is just like happy. And I've never been in an industry where we talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you might have been out last night. And how was that? And not like I had to pretend like I didn't have one too many glasses of wine.
Totally.
And then it's like, oh yeah, I got a rough start. It's like everyone's very much like they're so passionate. So very much what you're doing. They're so passionate about what they're doing. Totally. So everybody's happy. They're on the wave. They love their industry and they've surrounded themselves with great people working for them. And it's been, just, I don't know, just a cool, interesting industry to get into.
Absolutely.
I think like we're all too like zesty for life, I call it, to not work in industries like that.
Yeah, that can like really handle who you are.
Yeah, like I looked at some of my friends coming out of college getting these like super high-powered finance jobs, and I was like, it's not going to be me. So I remember I called my dad and I was like, I don't have a job yet. And these people all have really important ones. Am I doing something wrong here? He was like, do you want those jobs? I was like, absolutely not. And it's no offense. It's just not my course. Like those who take it, I'm like, good on you.
Good on
I
you,
could literally never do that. And like you experience a lot of that world in the Wall Street space. And
I was so miserable.
Yeah. And it goes back to the passion over paycheck thing. I was like, I'm going to choose my passion real quick. And I'm pray one day the paycheck comes, and I know it will because I care so much about this. But it's a very different choice for people who like, I think that my work is a lot of my life, but I'm okay with that because I love my work. And I think similar to the wine industry, like your work is your life. You find the balance and you have to draw in the sand as much as you can to make sure that it doesn't overtake. But, you know, when you do a job that is in not one of these industries, it's very different.
It is.
You do your 9 to 5 and you go home and your life is not public or personal to those around you unless you really, really want to make it.
Kind of make it that way.
Yeah.
Like,
but I'm just like, it ain't me.
It ain't me.
No. And so with that, I just like, okay, so with what you love to do, so it's not even the wine industry. I'm so glad I ended up in that, but mine is just social.
Yep.
And for what I was doing in New York, I was making the paycheck, but I felt like I was living other people's dreams. And I felt like I couldn't quit it because so many people would have wanted my job.
Sure. There's
and
a huge
I felt
pressure there.
So lucky that I got that spot. Like in agencies in New York, sometimes you have to get coffee for 2 years. And that's
agencies and talent. Yeah. You work in the mailroom. That's no joke. Like,
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
But I told my parents, I just like to talk and I just like to meet people and I just like to share my life on social media. And it's so funny. No, that's
podcasting.
No, and it's a job and it's a real job and it's something we work hard at. Because how earlier I said my brain shuts off and I don't want to work anymore after 4 p.m. And you were like, wait, like it's later than that right now because it's something I love.
Yes.
I could do it all night.
Feel like work.
No,
I know.
And it's literally a job. And I never, I don't know. It's just really crazy that you can kind of speak those things. And my parents, I remember they told me like at first before influencing was a thing, they told me you can't make a job out of Instagram.
Right. Wasn't a thing.
It wasn't. And not even being an influencer, the fact that then a year later, I got a job in New York City just doing influencer marketing.
Yeah.
And I only got hired because I fucking was really depressed for the 2 years before that. And all I did was Instagram in my room by myself. But I knew Instagram better than anyone I had ever met. And that's how I got this high-powered job.
Well, there's that phrase that I'll probably botch, but it's like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that's an exaggeration in some forms, but I think there's a lot of truth to that because it's just like, if you're passionate, you're enjoying what you're doing. And so work, I think often has this connotation of negativity of like, oh, I have to work. I have to put in effort. But I'm like, if you love what you're doing, like there's gotta be another word for it, you know?
I read something that was like, what will you have and what kind of shit do you want with it? Because it's like you could sit there and have a job that you absolutely hate and you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And you could do a job that you absolutely love, but there's still going to be some shit with it that's like, ugh. Like me personally, there's things about podcasting that I don't love. I don't like the setup.
Yeah.
I just wish I had people to do that for me, right?
Yeah,
Or
the followers.
We need an assistant.
We're gonna get there.
I love editing though. Even though it's very, very, very time consuming, I do kind of like it. You know, I don't hate that, but it's still super time consuming.
But you get to laugh.
But I get to laugh, and sometimes or cringe.
Yeah, you get to feel.
You're like, Nick, I saw what you were trying to do there, but no, I don't know.
It wasn't the best.
What shit will you have? You know.
Yeah.
But what do you want to do? You know, because I'll tell you one thing: like, none of us here will ever do something that we don't want to do.
I can't.
And I think it's like my toxic trait is that I don't do anything I don't like. But I think that people like that who kind of set those boundaries of not wanting to do that, we also live the most magical lives. I've had like men, let's say that I might go on a date with or whatever. They're like, well, like if you really don't want to or whatever, like let me know. And they've kind of like over explained like if I wanted to get out of it.
Sure.
And I have to be like, bro, if I didn't want to be talking to you, I would not be doing it.
No.
I go, you couldn't try and get me to do something I didn't want to do, even a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why going to the DMV doesn't happen for me and it takes me to jail. Because it's really hard for me to do little things that I don't want to do.
For episode 2 for that story.
Oh, no, we told it. That was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, but part 2 with Blaike coming soon when we can fit it into our schedules.
I think let's like reconvene in like a month or so.
Yeah.
Or 2 months or
a
3,
lot will probably happen in between.
I know. That's what I mean. It's like, summer's what? Let's meet at the end of summer and be like.
Well, Blaike and I have a date tomorrow for an influencer thing.
Yeah.
Blaike also owns with her friends an Instagram at Charcuterie. It is an entire Instagram dedicated to charcuterie on skis.
As it sounds.
And it completely ropes in with the seltzer company that I represent. So tomorrow we haven't even conceptualized this yet. We're not talking until tomorrow because I can't.
Nope.
It's not
One
for
thing
today.
at a time.
No. FaceTiming at 10.
Yes.
But yeah, so check that out. We'll put in the show notes Blaike's Instagram so you can follow along her crazy life, charcuterie, and anything else she wants to plug in this because that's what we're here for.
Yep.
Plugs all day.
Side note, speaking of plugs, what have we been drinking?
The Macy's Wine Club.
Yes.
Macy's, thank you so much for sponsoring this. And we will talk way more about it.
We're going to have an intermission, but this episode is sponsored by Macy's Wine Club. We opened up our 6 bottles today. We have a discount code coming for you soon. We'll talk about it later.
Cool. Blaike, thank you so much.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the second part. I'm already like on to the next of this one, but I think we got some cool content.
On to the next one.
Perfect.
Riding the wave.
Wow.
Of course. There's so many.
Of course.
So many titles.
There's so many titles. I've been thinking the whole time, and I'm like, I have 6 choices for titles.
That's why I have 17 companies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, cheers, guys. Thanks so much for being here.
All right.
It's going to be our
Bye-bye.
first YouTube episode.
Yes.
Well, that's
Hopefully.
exciting.
Yeah. So check us up on YouTube if
All right.
we didn't mess this up. All right. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.